Yo, like the new shorts I've been doing. I have a couple that haven't really been seen. So I suggest if you're seeing this or if you're watching this, just go through my history and check out those videos that I've done. So I'm going to obviously keep posting more. I decided to put a face to this one. I might also make this the same way that I made the other ones. Elijah, Moses, and Christ. If you notice, Moses and Elijah appeared in the Transfiguration. Elijah is spoken of as coming back, and he did come back in the form of John the Baptist. But John the Baptist wasn't actually Elijah. It's just about what Elijah represented. John the Baptist represented what Elijah represented. So Elijah came back in the form of John the Baptist. It's not reincarnation. No, the Bible does not teach that. But what do Elijah, Moses, and Christ share in common? And also, like, the two prophets who would come in the future are symbolized as Elijah and Moses, right? And Christ is also going to have a second coming. So it's like these three share something. I don't necessarily know what it is that they share, but I do know that these three have been used the most by the Almighty, and no other prophets have had the Spirit of God fill them as much as these three prophets. But then again, you can also argue that Elisha, he had a double portion than what Elijah did. But still, Elisha is in his own category. He's not as distinguished as Elijah is. Now, Elijah was used in a very powerful way. He outran a chariot. He had fire come from heaven and burn up a sacrifice together with the rocks and stones. Now, at what temperature does stone melt or evaporate? Right? It's crazy temperature. He had ravens come. God sent ravens to bring food to him when there was a famine in the land. When there was a famine for several years, all he did was say a prayer, and God caused thunderstorm to come down. And that was when he outran the chariot, right? So God used Elijah in a very powerful way. I mean, Elisha was also used in a powerful way too. When he died, there was a person who had also, when Elisha died and was buried, later on, years after Elisha had died, there was a dead body that fell on top of Elisha's bones because it was in a chariot and they were rushing, and the body fell, and it fell on top of Elisha's bones, and that body that fell on Elisha's bones got resurrected because of all the power because of all this amount of God's Spirit that was still within Elisha and his bones. So yeah, Elisha, that's what I'm saying. Elisha is also distinguished, but not as distinguished as Elijah. Right? So God used Elijah in a very powerful way. He did with Elisha too, but Elijah was dignified, I would say. Elisha didn't show up in the Transfiguration. Elijah did, right? So Elijah is distinguished. Moses, we all know, split the Red Sea, 10 plagues in Egypt. 120 years old, his eyesight still did not fail him. He wouldn't have been anywhere close to dying had God not taken his life away because of his small rebellion. Not small rebellion, it wasn't a small rebellion, that's why God punished him, but because of that one instance where he rebelled against the Almighty. There was also another character or person in the Old Testament who lived to be above 120 years old. A very special, he was a high priest, I believe. I can make a video on him. He's the only other person that I know of that lived to 120 or more, other than Moses. That's a different video. So we all know Moses was used in a powerful way. And I don't even need to speak about Christ, how much God used Christ. But what else do they share in common, Christ, Moses, and Elijah? When Christ was born, there was a census, or King Herod sent out an order that all males, I believe 3 years and under, don't quote me on that, but all males in Bethlehem and the surrounding districts be put to death, 3 years and under or so. Why? Because he wanted to have Christ killed, because he heard that the King of the Jews had been born. When Moses was born, all males, a certain amount of years and under, infants were killed. Christ was spared because he fled to Egypt. As him and his parents, they fled to Egypt to spare his life. Moses was spared. We know he was in the carriage in the river, and Miriam followed along, and right. With Elijah, we're not told about his birth story, but it won't surprise me if there's something there where it follows the same pattern. So Christ was the only one of his age group. Understand that. In Bethlehem and in all those districts, Christ was the only one who was in that age range as a male. He was the only one. Moses too was the only one of that age range in Israel, because all those in his age group were killed. Again, might be a similar story with Elijah, but we don't know his backstory. But that's just something to think about. Christ fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. No bread, no water. Moses fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He did it twice, as a matter of fact, at Mount Sinai, aka Mount Horeb. Right? Elijah fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, heading to Mount Sinai, aka or also known as Mount Horeb. At Mount Sinai, Moses saw God's passing. No man has ever seen God, including Moses. However, God did say, I will show mercy to whomever it is that I want to show mercy to. And Moses saw God's passing. Right? If God is an ocean and someone wants to taste the ocean, does God need to vanquish the whole ocean into the child's mouth? Or can he just give him a drop of the ocean and he would have still tasted the ocean, right? So Moses saw God's passing. He saw enough of what is considered to be God, but not enough to actually say that a man has seen God. The same thing happened with Elijah. At this same mountain, he saw God's passing. And of course, we already know Christ has seen God. He's the only begotten God who is in the bosom of the Almighty. He's the only one who has explained the Father. What else do they share in common? The zeal for the Almighty is shared by these three. I don't like to say characters because it makes it seem like they're not real. It's a part of a story. No. What do these three individuals have in common in terms of zeal for the Almighty? Well, we know about the zeal Christ has for his Father. He got angry when they made his Father's house a house of robbers. He overturned the tables. We know the story about that. What about Moses? When God took some of the spirit that was upon Moses, because it was a lot, and gave it to 70 other men, that's how much spirit was on Moses, right? You could almost say Moses' bones can probably resurrect someone too. That's why Michael and the devil were having an argument over Moses' body, because the devil was trying to use Moses' body to do his own devious things. Again, that's a different topic. But that's how much spirit was on Moses. And when God took that spirit off of him and left a lot of it still on Moses, he lived to be 120, his eyesight, his strength still with him. Joshua was kind of jealous for Moses because Joshua wanted Moses to have all this adoration from the Almighty and all this spirit on Moses. He didn't really want God to take the spirit from Moses and give it to other people. Then Moses said, no, I wish all men were like me, so that God would put his spirit upon them too. Because why? Because his zeal for God is that strong. You understand? He wants people to love God the way he loves them, so that God will bless them the way God blessed him. And what about Elijah? He was so upset that of all the signs that God had shown the Israelites through him, like when all the priests of Baal came to that particular place where God caused fire to burn everything up, even after all this, wicked Queen Jezebel still did not recant or return, or what's the word I should use? She still did not come to her senses and realizing that Jehovah is the one true God. No, she still wanted Elijah put to death. And this made Elijah go through a certain type of sorrow because of his zeal for the Almighty, because he wants people to love God the way he does. He ran away and he wished to be killed. He preferred to be dead. He preferred to be dead. So this means that when he was running away, it wasn't there. He was running away because wicked Queen Jezebel wanted him to be put to death. But he was running away because he did not see himself better than all the other prophets who were killed by wicked Queen Jezebel, because hundreds of prophets were killed. I don't know if it was hundreds, but tens. Lots of prophets were killed, and they would have to be hidden in caves to be protected. And you would think God would protect them, but God doesn't always work that way. And Elijah didn't see himself better off than those prophets, so he understood that he also could be killed. So that goes to show that he didn't see himself better than the other prophets. But surely God would have protected Elijah because he really was better than the other prophets. But he didn't see himself that way. Just like David didn't see himself to be better than anybody else, even though God did see him to be better than other people. That's why God said about David that he was a better man than Saul. But David didn't think of himself that way. That's why he didn't want to kill Saul when he had the chances to, because he saw Saul as the anointed of Jehovah. How could he kill the anointed of Jehovah? That's how much zeal David had for God too. But David didn't show up in the Transfiguration. But David wasn't used in a powerful way, and David wasn't a prophet. Even though you can argue he is a prophet, he did prophesy things in the book of Psalms, right? But he isn't what we would call a classical prophet. And the last thing that these three, Moses, Elijah, and Christ, share is that all three are prophets, and they will come back again. But I'm not sure if Elijah and Moses will literally come back, like Christ will literally come back. And that if it is not just like a representation of Moses and Elijah that will come back, right? Or if it's even all just symbolic. That I can't really speak too much on that because I haven't really done research on it. But see, that's why I got to make shorts, because in the shorts, I can concise all of that, put a nice voice behind it, some music, and some pictures, and this same message will be portrayed in that short as opposed to 13 minutes. All right, y'all, peace.